Hi you guys, it's Charlie here at Rove Motorhomes at Gunthorpe, and today it's going to be the Adria Coral Supreme 690 SC handover video. Now this is a 2017, so first and foremost we need to get underneath the bonnet. So firstly we're going to open the passenger door up. Whilst we are in the passenger door, your tyre pressure sensors are just on that side. If you pull this lever, the front end will lift up and down whilst your weight is on the chair, and the same with the rear lever at the back end, and that obviously adjusts the seat. Underneath the passenger seat, obviously because it's got the Aldi heating system, there is a radiator under there, so careful not shoving too much around it because that is going to get nice and warm. But getting underneath the bonnet is one pull on that lever just here. To operate the cab blinds, they clip in like that. You pull the slider back and you quite simply lift up and round and into the said slot, which obviously keeps it pinned in just round there. So they're nice and obviously easy to get on with. Clip them back in just like that when you're done. But obviously when we're coming round into the bonnet, on the Fiats it's typically on the right hand side of the badge, so we're going to lift that up. Underneath that plastic cap just there is the positive that's connected to the engine battery if you ever need to jump start the engine. The earth lug is just there for the black. Under that circular bit is the air filter. We've got oil top up on the top with a dipstick below. We've got the brake fluid, we've got the coolant, we've got the steering fluid, and then we've got the windscreen top up just on the left hand side there. Coming further round, we've got to the diesel point. So when we fill up the diesel, we just need to use the driver ignition key, which is this one just here. Flick it out straight into the base and turn left, and it will just pop out. There is no AdBlue on this vehicle. The hookup lead is next. So when pulling up to a campsite, first things first, obviously get your hookup lead in. Obviously some campsites, the water fill station's on the way in, so fill your water on the way in, get to your pitch and get the vehicle plugged in. That's going to charge up those leisure batteries and provide power to the high-powered systems in the vehicle. This down here is your Aldi heating flue. Now this is only going to be operational when we're running the Aldi heating on gas, which I currently have. So there's a nice warm bit of air coming out the bottom there, and this is just an exhaust system. That centre tube just there sucks in oxygen, and the external tube on the outside pumps out the exhaust fumes. Oxygen goes into the boiler, burns with the gas, and exhaust fumes come out. Now obviously after you put your hookup lead in at the campsite, we need to turn the gas on, and to do that I just need you to come in here and spin this to the plus side on both bottles. It's a 2-bottle system, so it feeds off both bottles, as you can see just here. So if you open these two up, both are going through. So when you get to the campsite, turn it in the plus position and just push this green button in here. That is your crash sense protector. Now if you've gone over a speed bump or a big enough big enough pothole in the road, it is going to set that off. So to save any messing around, when you turn your gas on, just push it in whilst you're here. The only rules with gas is make sure it's turned off when you're driving, and it's always got to be strapped in when you're driving as well. The fill up for the gas point is just down there, which I'll obviously show you on the handover today. Coming further around to the back of the vehicle, you'll see just down here, that's obviously your waste pipe, which is drained from the inside. But again, the pipe's there, and that's where the wastewater is going to come out from your grey tank. So 2 water tanks on board. You've got your fresh water tank, which is obviously towards the front, and then we've got the wastewater tank, which is down at the back. To fill up the fresh water tank, we just need to open this up here, and we do that with a key because it's locked, and it just pops the hose pipe straight in there. And the reason it's lockable is for when you're wild camping. Obviously we don't want anyone messing with the water. And just there is a 12-volt plug-in, so theoretically you can put an aqua roll on the floor, a 40-litre drum of water, put a submersible pump into it, plug it in there, and the submersible pump will then become live and start pumping water in through the water inlet. Towards the rear, we're then at the garage space. So in the garage, all the carpets are in there, the awning strengthener that goes down the centre, and the wind out tool. Here we go. This is how we drain off the wastewater. So we've got the on and off position. Just move it around like so, and that's going to close it all up. And obviously we want it open for the handover today, just to make sure any water that we do use comes straight out. Under that metal trim there is a radiator that goes the full length down the vehicle. And you will be able to see that obviously the bed lifts up on the struts just there, and we can raise up the back end of the bed as well if we want to. Down at the bottom in the black box is the toolkit, and obviously your spare wheel is nicely in the middle and nice and accessible. Round to the back then, you've got parking sensors down at the back on the bottom of the bumper, reverse cameras up there, fully set up, ready to go. We don't need to touch any of that. Just be careful when we're jet washing, don't get too close to the motorhome in general. If you are going to use a high pressure jet wash, we need to be stood far back like this and just letting it soak the motorhome. We don't need to get up close and blasting it. Coming round then we've got the toilet cassette. So to empty the toilet cassette, it's a pinch and open locker. First of all, that's the cassette just there. We need to lift this up just here, pull it out towards us to reveal the handle. Once the handle's revealed, we can then remove the cassette, take it over to the designated area, twist the cap off and tip it all out as so, out through this hole just here. This is also a measuring beaker, as you can see on there, if it focuses in. So put your greens or blues in there, straight back into the cassette, and then obviously close it up. That's your cassette emptied, refilled with your greens or blues, and then push back in until the orange recess is in that spot there. If you try to pull the cassette out and it's not coming out, that's because the trapdoor in the toilet hasn't been shut correctly. Coming into the motorhome then, we've got some storage just here. I think this is where your leisure batteries are and your solar controller, which again will be showing you upon the handover, but just so you know the locations. This is just a little step that comes out from underneath. We've got the television on, so obviously I'll show you all about that as well. But in the Adria, this is the control panel. So tap to wake up. We've got the lighting isolator, auxiliary, which is for your televisions and speakers, awning light and water pumps. To turn them on and off, we just need to tap them there. This icon tells us we're hooked up and we've actually got power. If I tap that, it gives us how much water's in the freshwater tank. If I tap that, it tells me how much water's in the wastewater tank. If I tap that, it gives me the internal temperature. Tap it again, it'll give me the external temperature. B1 is the vehicle battery voltage and B2 is the leisure battery voltage. And A is the ampage that we're currently drawing on said batteries. Holding this button here will turn the system on and off, and that wakes everything up and turns it all off. So just to reiterate, you've gone round, you've plugged the vehicle in, you've turned your gas on, you've filled it up with water. So when you're filling it up with water at the back end out there, we need to stay inside the motorhome and keep tapping that, and it's going to give us a live update on how full that fresh water tank is. But obviously, once you've filled the water tank up, you've gone over to your position on the campsite. We plug the vehicle in, we turn the gas bottle on, we come inside, we turn the control panel on with this button, which wakes up all the electric power, turn the lights on, turn the auxiliary on if you want your telly on, and obviously we know the water's full, so at this point we can turn the water pump on. Once you've turned all that on, next step is to go to your taps and run the water through. So for instance, just like this, we need to run the water on the hot and the cold side until we get a solid stream of water just like that. No airlocks. You're going to get a lot of coughing and spluttering to start with. Once that's all gone, then we know the water system has been primed. And obviously the reason we run it on the hot side is to get all the water out, and that then will fill the boiler with cold water ready to warm up. Then we move on to the heating and hot water, which is this control panel just here. Now at the minute it's telling us that we've got the heating on, and it's telling us internal and external temperature. So internally 25 degrees, externally it's measuring 11. This here is exactly the same as this. It's to tell us that we're plugged in to a feed and it is powered up. And this tells us here that it's pumping the antifreeze liquid around the radiators. So if we click menu now, we go in and we can pick the exact temperature we want for the heating. And then this here is how we choose the temperature of the hot water. All the way up to the top is 70 degrees hot water, halfway is 40 degrees hot water. And then you choose, do I want to run it on electric or gas? So if it's lit green, it's on. So at the minute I'm using 2 kilowatts of electric and gas. If I push that up, I can go up to 3, or I can take it all the way down and turn the electric off completely and solely run the heating and hot water on gas. If I wanted to run it on just electric, I'd put the electric on and then turn the gas off just like that. You can go into the settings, obviously change your priorities, so when it starts up it'll automatically choose gas or electric, your screen brightness. You've got this one here which puts it on night mode, where you can set different temperatures and clocks on there for when it's in the evening. And then you've got the brightness of your screen, you can put timers onto it. You've got altitude there as well, so if you're going up in the Alps and you're really high up, because it is an antifreeze liquid as it gets higher, obviously air pressure drops, so you can set to say that you're going in higher altitudes. Again, more timers, pumping, circulating, all the bits and bobs are there. Now next to it you've got the heat exchange pump. Now what that is because the Aldi heating system is going to warm up the entirety of this motorhome and under its floor like it has here. The heater exchange is then to say, right, the odds are if you're in the Alps or you're in somewhere in Italy and it's absolutely freezing cold, it's not going to be healthy to start the engine up straight away, going from minus whatever temperature the engine's been sat at while you've been parked up to going 80 degrees red hot when you're running it. So what happens is if you click heater pump exchange, you'll hear a pump kick in, and then what that's doing now is sending the antifreeze liquid that's in this radiator and all the rest of them, it's opened the circuit up, and now it's going actually in the cab and under the bonnet. And what it does is it preheats the engine block so that when you do turn it on to warm your glow plugs up, you're not warming them from minus temperatures, you're warming them from lukewarm as if the vehicle's parked up and left in summer. So it's going to prolong the life of the engine and everything about it, only in really cold temperatures. And then obviously we've got a USB charging point, we've got various light switches below as well. Around to the left, we've got the television that pushes up and down. In the top of there, you've got the plug-in for the television. We've just got the spare hook charger cable there, not charger cable, but actually mains cable. So at the minute, it's on the 12 volt, so we can use the telly while camping, but you've got the option there to make it a 230 volt telly as well. The cabs are swivel seats, obviously, by the by. I'll be showing you that when you come in today and look around the motorhome. Underneath this bench seat just here, this is where you would drain the fresh water and the boiler. So on the left is the boiler drain valve. This blue tap you can see in front of you is going to drain off both the boiler on the left and the fresh water. Now, obviously, I've shown you the wastewater drain valve is in the garage. This is the freshen boiler. So every time you're done using the motorhome, if you're only going to leave it 24 hours and go back out in it, there's no real need to drain the boiler unless it's freezing temperatures. The last thing we want is water to be in these tanks, the frost get inside, freeze the water, because when water freezes it expands and it could potentially crack pipes and tanks and things like that when it freezes. So when we're done with the motorhome, we're packing it away. We need to drain the boiler, and to do that we just twist that diamond, noticing the blue buttons popped out. To close it off, shut, push the button in. To drain the fresh water, simply turn the tap. As you can see, it's in the on position at the moment. If you twist it into the upright position, that'll be off and start draining it. Now, the reason on this one here, the blue button popped out, is because this is a thermostatic valve. So if in this locker reaches below 3 degrees Celsius, that blue button's going to pop out and it's going to drain your boiler for you, just to make sure that the water doesn't freeze inside the boiler. So it's an extreme backup, if you like. Now, essentially, obviously, it's always better not to rely upon that and do it yourself. But that does mean then when we do open up the tap, the button comes out. So to close it, we have to push that blue button back in. So that's how you drain your boiler. That's how you drain your fresh water. And you now know how to drain your wastewater as well, because that's the lever in the garage. And that is how to get all the water off of this motorhome, ready for it to be packed away. Above the fridge, you've got a nice storage cupboard with your TV aerial in. So to put the aerial up and down, we twist this to tighten it that way, twist it this way to loosen it, and quite simply push it up and down for the best picture. So I'm pulling it down now, you can see the picture starting to distort and we're losing picture. Pushing it up and we should get that signal back, because we've let get in now above the building and it's just starting to try and get itself back now. So obviously always good to have it in the highest position, and to turn it off and on is a little switch up here on the top. This here changes it from horizontal to vertical, so it changes which way it's actually looking. So obviously, I'll be honest with you, we've never actually had to change that on ours. I'm going to push it up to the top, leave it in position, so hopefully we get some picture back. Everything's on there, everything's turned on and ready to go for your handover today. To operate the fridge, the green light there tells us that the fridge is on. Tap this button to tell you what power we're on. So we're on hook up at the minute at the coldest temperature. To change the power source, hold this button in here until it flashes and use the arrows to change in between and click to select. It's then going to ask you to confirm the temperature. Click that again and you've now selected a new power source. When we're moving on to the gas, it will self-light itself. If there's any faults, it'll start flashing at us and this little green button will go red. But obviously it's all gone out because it's lit on gas as we expected. Now you do have automatic mode on the fridge, so we've got battery, hookup and auto. If I click on auto, it's going to pick the hookup every time. If I then unplug the hookup lead, it'd go to gas. If I went and turned the gas bottles off and started the engine, it'd go to battery. Now the battery setting is the only setting on this fridge that won't reduce the temperature. The hookup and the gas is a nice powerful power source, so that's going to be able to reduce and get this fridge nice and cold. However, the battery, if you ask the battery to reduce the temperature of the fridge for you, you'd flatten the battery. So what the battery setting is there to do is maintain the temperature, not reduce it, but maintain it. So whatever temperature the fridge was when you put it onto battery, it'll be the exact same temperature when you arrive at the campsite and you take it off battery. And that's what it's there for, because the alternator is going to charge the vehicle battery and then that's going to come to this. So we're not going to flatten the vehicle battery and we're going to be able to maintain that temperature in the fridge for you. Lighting the hobs is very simple, pushing and twist and self-ignite just there. The built-in igniter into the hob. It's not a shared one with the oven or anything like that. I need to twist it a bit more. There we go. And that gets the hobs going, and this is the fastest way to get your motorhome nice and warm. In the higher level cupboards, you've got nothing but storage to get filled up. Get all your bits and bobs in there, obviously. fill them all up, and right down at the front exactly the same. And then obviously below there we're onto the oven and grill. So to light the oven, push in left and twist. That'll ignite the oven in the back, as you can see. It goes from 140 to 240 degrees. To light the grill, exactly the same, but in the opposite direction. And then obviously once it's lit, just let go, and that'll hold its flame for you. Whenever you're driving anywhere, take the rattles out and get these out. It'll stop the scratching the oven, and it'll also obviously save a lot of rattling. Under the floor, you've got a lot of storage compartments. All these are ready to be filled up with bits and bobs. We can lift the bed up to access the top drawer, and obviously to get in for the water tank and draining that off as well. You'll see here, look, because the fresh water tank's in the back, the main drain off's in the front, but you've also got this one here, so we can turn it. As you can see, it's a 140 litre max tank, but what we can do is we can get that down to 20 litre with a quarter of a turn, or for a full turn it's going to open it all up and drain the lot out. Now the reason it gives you the option is simply because the 20 litre option is like your travel water. So if you're at a campsite, there's no point carrying 100 litres of water home, because that's 100 kilos. So turning it to that 20 mark is going to leave 20 litres of water in, which isn't too much on the weight side of thing. And it just means if you get stuck in a traffic jam, you've got water then to flush your toilet, wash your face, keep yourself fresh. And that's what it's there for. So with regards to the toilet, when it comes to flushing it, it uses the exact same pump as I'm using there to run the taps. So we need to make sure the pump's turned on the control panel if we want to flush the toilet, and we do that by clicking the blue button. So if I open this up, you'll see, if I click the blue button now, all the flush coming through. This light here will come on when the cassette's ready to be emptied, and to get that into the cassette, we just move this grey lever over, and it drops it into the cassette itself. Pushing it back over shuts that disc off and stops any smells coming back up the toilet. We've got some great storage in here and here. Push this button and then the mirror will slide to access the storage behind the mirror. Push that to lock it in so it's not sliding everywhere while traveling. And then we've got this here as well for under the units. In this wardrobe here, there should be anything but a hanging rail, which is all good. You've got some storage over the top of the bed. A shower obviously is the shower. Once you've put your hot water on and it's nice and hot, make sure your water pump's turned on, and obviously you can use the shower. Make sure the brace is clipped in before we travel. And then in this one, we've got the Aldi heating antifreeze liquid along with the hanging rail. So that is your antifreeze liquid there, which gets pumped around the radiator system and obviously keeps the vehicle nice and warm. Now, you shouldn't need to change that liquid, but when you get the vehicle hab checked every year, they'll be checking that liquid and the lifespan on it, because antifreeze does have a lifespan, and they can check for that and advise you when it needs changing for some new fresh liquid. And obviously that is an engineer's job, but just so you know where it is. The table does go up and down, so to do so, just push your foot on there, and then we can push the table actually up and down, which this basically clicks a button, this button here, and it just releases it so you can push the table. And what it means is when you're pushing it up and down, it's only for the reason if I centralize it just there, when it does go down, this pulls out as well, and it makes up a small bed for someone. So if you did want to make up that as an extra sleeping arrangement, you've got the opportunity to do so. And in the cab, the only thing worth mentioning to you is that switch just there isolates the radio. So it just means that when you've got it switched in the off position, the radio isn't draining the vehicle battery. This here is hill descent assist, so it's going to help the vehicle engine brake. That's traction control plus. Cruise control, flick up, limiter, flick down. And then obviously on the right hand side, you've got your fog lights, your dipped beam as well, electric windows and mirrors, just to finish that all off nicely. But it's a lovely motorhome, guys. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get a lot of good use out of it. And hopefully this handover video is just going to help remind you of what you learned on the day of collection. Cheers, guys.